Guilty, guilty, guilty. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot to talk about today. Believe me, I'm going to get to Trump's very important address at the Economic Club in New York. It was an unbelievable speech and now completely resets the race against Kamala Harris. But before I do, the other huge story yesterday, crackhead Hunter Biden, stuns the courtroom, stuns much of the country just before jury selection was to begin in his tax evasion trial yesterday. Hunter Biden stunned the courtroom and, frankly, much of the entire media by now changing his plea from not guilty to guilty. And it's now guilty on all counts. In other words, Hunter Biden yesterday pled guilty to 9 charges, 3 of them felonies. And as many of you know, if you heard the news yesterday, these are serious felonies involving tax evasion, tax fraud, filing false personal filing claims on both his personal and corporate income taxes, over $1.4 million. Now, there are several very, very important consequences now arising out of this. The first and the biggest is that Hunter Biden now is going to face 17 years in jail. What is also incredible is the timing of how this happened yesterday. Normally, when you do a plea deal, you do it way before jury selection or the trial is set to begin. Not on the very cusp, on the very verge of the trial beginning, when they're actually in the process of trying to select jurors. And so what that shows, to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that Joe Biden and his team are convinced that Kamala is going to lose the election. If they honestly believed that Kamala Harris was going to win the election, then no way would Hunter Biden be pleading guilty and risking years in prison. They now realize that Kamala is most likely going to lose to Donald Trump. And so Daddy is going to have to bail him out with a pardon or a commutation. And the reason why that scumbag Hunter Biden pled guilty yesterday wasn't because he's an innocent man being persecuted by the prosecution and federal prosecutors, as his sleazy lawyer Abby Lowell was trying to claim yesterday. No. Au contraire. The reason why Hunter Biden fell on his sword was to protect Joey. And it was to protect the Biden crime family, because a trial wouldn't have just been humiliating for Hunter Biden, because all of his personal life, all of his spending, his reckless, irresponsible, lavish spending on Russian hookers, strippers, cocaine, crack, jet setting, private jets, globe-trotting around the world, all of this would have been exposed, but it would have led to discovery. And discovery would have shown, where'd you get the money from? And why were they paying you so much money to literally do nothing? And of course, it would have led back to Joe Biden. Because as the trial would have unearthed, as the trial would have clearly unmasked and revealed to the entire country and the world, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that Joe Biden was using his vice presidency and his presidency as part of an international influence peddling operation in which he used his son as the bagman to collect bribe after bribe after bribe after bribe in exchange for selling out U.S. foreign policy and U.S. national interests to the highest bidder, whether it be the corrupt oligarchs in Ukraine, whether it be corrupt oligarchs in Romania, whether it be corrupt oligarchs in Kazakhstan, or, of course, the big one, the communist Chinese. And so, to protect his old man, to protect him from all the crimes and abuses of power and corruption that would have been revealed at trial, Joe Biden gave a call to Hunter and said, son, don't worry about it. You fall on your sword. You plead guilty, and daddy will pardon you. Now, the question for liberals and the media is this. Joe Biden, on dozens of occasions, I'm not talking even once or twice, on dozens of occasions, has said again and again and again that under no circumstances would he commute or pardon any sentence for his son. Now you're going to see what a liar Joe Biden is. Now you're going to see just what a corrupt, lying SOB Joe Biden is. I will bet you the best steak at the post-1917 steakhouse, and by the way, I met the owner yesterday. Very nice guy. And the steaks, you got to go to post-1917 steakhouse. Let me just say this, okay? You're going to have an incredible meal. But let that go, okay? Let that go. I'll bet you the best steak at the post-1917 steakhouse. And I'll throw in any bottle of wine you want and any dessert, the whole course, a full course menu. Joe Biden is now going to pardon Hunter Biden. And the reason now is he can't count on Kamala winning the White House in November. He would rather that she do it and he not do it, because it would be an obvious, massive scandal when he does pardon his corrupt loser son. So he'd rather that she do it on her first day in office than he do it on his last day in office. But now that guarantee is no longer there. And so everything we said about the Biden crime family has been validated. And I got to tell you, they're lucky. They're lucky they had such weak, controlled opposition federal prosecutors, because the worst part of the tax evasion and the corruption and the embezzlement, they got them for 2018. They deliberately left out 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013. And that's when Joe Biden was up to his eyeballs in getting himself, Hunter, and the entire Biden crime family rich as he sold us out into country after country after country. Listen now to Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's sleazeball lawyer, on this complete reversal. His client was not guilty for months. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. They found him guilty in Delaware on gun charges. He's already now a convicted felon. And now, going into the courtroom again, he knew the prosecution had its client dead to rights, and at the last possible second, changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. But you know who the victim is? Yep. Crackhead Hunter. Listen now to Abby Lowell. This guy has no shame whatsoever. Roll cut 5. Mike.
After watching prosecutors exploit his family's pain during the Delaware trial and realizing that they were planning to do it again here in California, Hunter decided to enter his plea to protect those he loves from unnecessary hurt and cruel humiliation.
Right. First of all, why didn't he plead guilty months ago? By the way, you would have gotten a better deal. Any lawyer will tell you, if you're going to plead guilty, don't take it almost to trial or start jury selection. That's the worst time to do it on every front. You're angering the judge. You're costing the state unnecessary money. You've lost all leverage. So why at the last possible moment? Okay, if he really wanted to spare his family the pain and the humiliation, we have to relive Hunter's addiction. We don't want to relive it. No, I'll tell you the pain and humiliation he wanted to spare was that Daddy was helping line his pockets. That the only reason why, because the question's going to be asked. You had millions of dollars pouring in, and we see you on plane after plane, jet setting all over the world. And you're partying like there's no tomorrow. I'm not kidding, really. Snorting cocaine off the rear ends of strippers, okay? Sleeping with prostitutes and escorts, 2, 3 at a time. Now, and videotaping himself. That's how stupid he was. Where did you get all that cash? And why would they be paying you all of this money? Unless, of course, it was to get influence and access to your old man. So, it wasn't about sparing his family. It was about sparing Dementia Joe. And now, Hunter Biden has pled guilty. Will Hunter Biden see any jail time? Or do you think Biden will pardon him? 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very, very important developments yesterday now it's not even a trial. They didn't even make it to trial in the Hunter Biden case. So, because a lot of you have a lot of questions about exactly what happened yesterday. So I'm going to make it as simple and clear as I can. 617-266-6868 is the number. Joe Biden now, in many ways, is going to have to pardon his son. And I'll tell you why. Because the plea deal that they arranged yesterday, Hunter Biden is now doing this plea deal already as a convicted felon. Remember, he was found guilty in Delaware on gun charges. So he's not doing a guilty plea, never having a criminal rap sheet, never having been convicted in the past, first time offense. So this is going to really significantly increase the chances, almost make it inevitable, that he will see jail time. He's going to see jail time. The sentencing is going to be in December. The judge is going to give him jail time. He faces up to 17 years in prison. Now, I'm telling you, Hunter's not going to see a day in jail. The deal that he made with his old man is, I don't care if it's you, I don't care if it's Kamala, I don't care who does it. But if I'm going to take the fall for this, then, because, remember, they could have gotten Joe Biden, on tax evasion. They could have gotten Joe Biden on corruption and bribery. All the money came because of Joe Biden. He's the linchpin of this entire crime family. No one else has any access to sell. Frankie Biden, Jimmy Biden, Hunter Biden, nobody can sell anything. The only one that can sell anything is Joe Biden. So, Hunter Biden now wanted to spare his father the so-called humiliation of a trial, really the exposure of the old man and their money laundering, embezzling, tax cheating scheme. Okay, their influence peddling scheme. So, to show you what a weasel Hunter Biden is, okay, I want to make it very simple. I'm not going to get into the weeds. It's very simple. It's rarely done. It's not often done, but sometimes it is done, whereby a defendant, and that's what Hunter Biden and his lawyer tried to do yesterday, they offer what's called an Alford guilty plea. Now, you may be saying, Jeff, what the hell is an Alford guilty plea? An Alford guilty plea is someone who says, look, for whatever reason, I'm going to get destroyed in court. Okay, I'm going to lose. It's stacked against me, and I can see the writing on the wall, and I'm going to lose. So, but I'm innocent. But I can't win. I just can't win. So I'm going to offer an Alford guilty plea, which is I plead guilty and you can sentence me, but the record shows that I claim that I'm innocent. If that makes any sense. In other words, I didn't do it, and the record shows that I'm saying I didn't do it. I'm not admitting any guilt, but I can't win in court. Now, it's not often done. Sandy made that point to me, and she's a lawyer. She's completely right. But sometimes it is done. Rarely, but it does happen. His sleazy lawyer and Hunter that's what they did yesterday at the last minute. So they went into the courtroom. All the media cameras are there. Jury selection is supposed to begin. Up until yesterday morning, everybody, including the judge, the prosecutors, the media, everybody's saying, well, he came in as not guilty, and they're going to start selecting jurors, and we're going to have a trial. Right then, just as the trial is about to begin, we're offering an Alford plea. The prosecution was like, what? They were stunned. The judge, what? Now at this possible moment? Are you serious? So they had to go back and forth. The prosecution did not accept the Alford plea. The judge said, no, listen, we got to do this behind closed doors. And so they stopped jury selection temporarily. And at the end of the day, now it's a regular guilty plea. Now Hunter Biden pled guilty, went a lot back and forth, and eventually they said, okay, to hell with it. No Alford guilty plea. It's going to be a straight up a regular guilty plea. Now, my point just being, even at the last possible moment, even when he offers his guilty plea, he's trying to weasel out. What changed? That's the question. What changed? For months and months and months, everybody knew this trial was coming. He claimed he was not guilty. What changed? At the last possible second, he does a complete 180-degree reversal. He goes from not guilty to guilty on 9 counts, 3 felonies. As a convicted felon, he's pleading guilty. So he's guaranteeing himself jail time. Up to 17 years behind bars. What changed? And is this now setting up a pardon from Joe Biden? Now, let me tell you what some of you are saying to me on email, text messages, and I believe it's Michael. If I'm mispronouncing his first name on Messenger, I apologize. I don't know if it's Michelle or Michael. But anyway, and whatever, Michael Michelle makes a very good point. Jeff, maybe we're looking at this all the wrong way. Maybe there's a secret deal between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That a month before the election or 3 weeks before the election, Joe Biden resigns for health reasons. Kamala becomes the president. And she says, win or lose, I will then pardon Hunter Biden. So you don't look like the sleazeball you're going to look like when you actually pardon him on the last day. I will pardon Hunter. What say you? 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, let me ask you, what do you make of Hunter Biden's decision to plead guilty yesterday? Why did he do it? Why do you think he did it? And why did he do it at the worst possible time for himself? He lost all leverage by waiting so late and even trying to offer that Weasley plea, as I mentioned, the Alford guilty plea, which blew up in his face. And now he has pled guilty to 9 charges, tax fraud, tax evasion. 3 of them are serious felonies. Is this now leading up to a pardon by Joe Biden? 617-266-6868. Will Hunter Biden spend a day behind bars? I want to hear from you. By the way, it was Michael. It was Michael who sent me that message, and here's exactly what Michael wrote to me. Jeff. Joe won't pardon Hunter. He's going to resign in October, and Kamala will do his bidding. Now, there's a lot of you out there, and frankly, a lot of analysts out there, that think that, yeah, you know what, they're going to want to give Kamala an October surprise. And the October surprise is Joe Biden, too sick to finish. He's going to claim for health reasons he can't finish. He's going to step down, make Kamala president of the United States, thereby, breaking all these supposed glass ceilings. First female president, first female minority president, blah, 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 blah. And they believe that may give her a huge boost several weeks or a month before the actual date of the election. And what many of you are saying is that could be the deal where Joe Biden, now maybe he doesn't care, but his reputation is going to be in tatters, in absolute tatters, if he goes ahead and pardons Hunter Biden now, or whatever, after November 5th, and whether, let's say, Kamala wins or loses. If he goes ahead, especially if Kamala loses, if he goes ahead and pardons Hunter Biden after saying over and over and over and over again that under no circumstances, unconditionally, I give you my word as a Biden, which to me, that tells you everything you need to know about the value of his word. But let that go. I will not pardon or commute my son. No pardon or commutation. None whatsoever. So maybe the deal is I step down, hand the reins over to you, Kamala. This is now direct election interference, but you got to pardon my son. Win or lose, you got to pardon my son. Do you think that's in the cards? Stephen doesn't think so. Here's what he sent to me on message, he messaged me on Messenger. Jeff, I don't know if Comrade Kamala would actually pardon Hunter Biden. If Joe did step down earlier than his term ends, that could be a ploy on her part to get herself and her team into the Oval Office. And so she could just be engaging in lip service to rush this process to get her into the White House. Hunter, but she may not follow through on her promise. She may stab Joe Biden in the back because she stabs everybody in the back. Hunter could still be sitting in prison without any pardon at all. In other words, I don't know if I can trust Kamala. And if you make a deal with her to pardon Hunter, that's very high risk because you're counting on her to be true to her word. And the one thing about Kamala Harris is she will stab anybody in the back. Anybody. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to this, his sleazeball lawyer, Abby Lowell. How about you just enter the guilty plea and go home? Really, I mean, in other words, look, my client is guilty. He's so obviously guilty. He stole from the American people. He didn't pay his taxes. He was living high on the hog. We all know what was going to come out at the trial. And just, take your punishment like a man. No. Listen to this. You can see they're setting it up for a pardon. Listen now to Abby Lowell. The victim is Hunter. Listen to this. He overpaid his taxes. I swear you can't make this up. Forget tax evasion. No. He's given the government too much. Roll cut 5B. Mike.
There's no doubt this case was an extreme and unusual one for the government to bring. Like millions of Americans, Hunter was late in filing and paying his taxes. Unlike those millions of Americans, he was charged criminally for his failures that occurred during the depths of his addiction to drugs and alcohol, and which he has rectified by paying his overdue taxes in full with interest and penalties. Years before he was ever charged. In fact, Hunter actually overpaid his taxes in the year he was charged with tax evasion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's paying too much. We're suing the IRS. We're suing the government. We want our money back. We gave you too much. I mean, really, this guy could sell snow to Eskimos. I mean, this guy, he could sell sand to the Saudis. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. Really. I mean, so here you have, we're looking at millions and millions of dollars where we don't even know where the income came from. Undeclared, unpaid taxes. He lies on form after form. He evades millions of dollars in taxes. And now they're doing the whole, he was in the depths of addiction. In other words, they're trying to paint the picture of a guy really in an alley with like a heroin needle, you know, sticking out of his arm. He's like, you know, on the verge of ODing. When in reality, he's jet-setting around the world. He's partying with strippers and prostitutes and escorts. Literally, he's going into strip clubs and dropping $25, $50, $100,000 like it's nothing. He's setting up deals with Burisma, with Romanian oligarchs, with Chinese banks and Chinese energy companies. He's globetrotting in a suit, setting up deal after deal after deal. And they're like, he was in the depths of addiction. The man didn't know what he was doing, didn't know what was happening to him. You believe this? I've got some swampland in Florida you may be interested in. So, loving Hunter, compassionate Hunter, victim Hunter. There's Hunter. The crack pipe made him do it. It was the crack pipe. Blame the crack pipe. Hunter did it for his dad and for his family. Listen now to Abby Lowell. What Hunter did yesterday, it was a brave thing to do. He's basically George Washington. Roll cut 5C. Mike.
Hunter put his family first today. And it was a brave and loving thing for him to do.
Why did he wait till this morning?
If you heard, even one of the reporters, even one of those lib reporters were like, yeah, if it's so loving and the brave and right thing to do, why did he wait until literally this morning when the trial is set to begin? Now, all of a sudden, he cops a plea? I want to take all of your calls. 617-266-6868. Will Hunter see prison time?
There's no doubt this case was an extreme and unusual one for the government to bring. Like millions of Americans, Hunter was late in filing and paying his taxes. Unlike those millions of Americans, he was charged criminally for his failures that occurred during the depths of his addiction to drugs and alcohol, and which he has rectified by paying his overdue taxes in full with interest and penalties. Years before he was ever charged. In fact, Hunter actually overpaid his taxes in the year he was charged with tax evasion.
Incredible. I'm telling you, just incredible. The way they can just lie. Just lie. I mean, 650 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Okay. This is from Eric on Messenger. It's absolutely hilarious. You got Happy Lowell going on about how, he didn't pay his taxes. He was in the depths of his addiction to drugs and alcohol. And Eric on Messenger writes, Jeff, Abby forgot to mention Hunter was in the depths of his brother's wife. You can't make this up. Okay, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Will Hunter Biden spend a day behind bars? Will he ever see a jail cell? Okay, I'm not asking for 10 years or 5 years or 3 years. Or do you think Hunter Biden will ever spend 24 hours, a day in prison? A, yes. B, no. I want to hear from you. To me, I think there's no way. I'm a B all the way. His father is going to pardon him 6 ways to Sunday or commute his sentence or whatever. But there's no way Hunter Biden pled guilty yesterday without some kind of a guarantee that he was not going to spend a day in jail because his father's going to pardon him, or Kamala's going to pardon him, or somebody's going to pardon him. Agree, disagree? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. Lines are loaded. Dave in Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I hope that your radio issue fixed from yesterday. So this wasn't supposed to go as far as it was. If you look at the timeline, they tried to sweep it under the rug. They dragged their feet in the midterms. They dragged their feet during the primaries because of election interference, if this was to be going on during the election. They tried to give them a sweetheart deal. The judge was quick enough to say, no, that hasn't been done before. It was never supposed to get this far. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think they're going to have Biden resign, Kamala come in so she can look presidential before the election. She's already installed. People like to vote for the incumbent or make her look like the incumbent. And she made a promise that she will pardon him. That's why it was till the last minute. I think by way of comparison, if you look at how they've treated Trump and rushed it through, that's election interference. The DOJ, there's 2 sets of justice, and it's on full display right here. And that's all I got to say about that.
Dave, before I let you go, if you were to vote in the poll question, do you think he's going to spend any time in jail? I take it your answer would be no?
If Biden does not resign, I think he'll get pardoned. If Biden resigns, I think Kamala is going to stick it to him.
You think she's going to let Hunter twist in the wind and go to jail?
Unless he's got dirt on her to say that she was connected and she knew. Unless she's got dirt saying, yeah, I know, she knows what I was doing because she was tied to it. But I don't think she was tied to it, so I think she'll stick him because she doesn't want to look like she's protecting the criminal.
Oh yeah, well you're right. She's really if she look, let's just play out your scenario, which I think is very interesting, Dave, and I think it's very plausible. I think it's a very plausible scenario. So to help her win the election, the October surprise, right? To make her look presidential, make her be the official incumbent. Biden steps down, resigns. Kamala comes in. She's now the president. Now, let's say wins or loses. It doesn't matter. Now she's made history. Okay? She beat Hillary Clinton to the punch. She will be the first female president of the United States and a female minority to boot. Does she really want to dirty her hands by pardoning Hunter Biden? Win or lose. Okay, let's just say she loses in November. So what? She'll be in office for like 4 months in total. But does she want that to be her legacy? Or say she wins. Okay, they steal it. Does she really want to start her new presidency by having pardoned this guy? In other words, you're right, Dave. She would really dirty her hands. It would almost blow up her presidency on the launch pad if she goes and pardons him on behalf of Joe Biden. So you're right, Dave. Unless they've got something over her, she may not do it. Which begs the question, if they're not sure she's going to do it, Dave, then maybe Joe Biden's going to stay in office. Because remember, the reason why Hunter's pleading guilty, it's not, the love of my son, I'm going to pardon him, I don't want my son to go to jail. The reason why Hunter pled guilty yesterday was to protect Biden, because then the trial would expose how implicated and how central Joe Biden was to the whole thing. So he's pleading guilty to protect his old man. He's expecting his old man now to come back and say, "Hey, Dad, look, I did my part. I fell on the sword. Now it's my neck in the noose. I'm the one that's going to go to jail." So if I'm Joe Biden, if I don't have an ironclad assurance that Kamala is going to pardon him, I don't care. Dementia, no dementia. I stay in office and then I pardon him on the last day. What say you, Dave?
Agree with that, because Biden's reputation is already shattered. He's going to be a footnote in history. His legacy is already done. So what's one more chink in the armor when he pardons his son? At that point, he's not really going to care. His family comes first. I really think that in his mind, I'm going to protect my son at all costs, regardless. I mean, he's already in tatters, but that's why it came down to the last second. That's why, because of if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. So they must have got a last-minute assurance. I mean, why try the Alfred thing? Because I don't want to admit guilt, but I have to now, because I have to get that assurance that I'm going to be pardoned.
You nailed it. Dave, I think you really nailed it. You really nailed it. Dave, thank you so much for that call. I want to ask all of you, agree, disagree, and in particular, really, two issues on the table. Okay, not one, but let's throw two logs on the fire. First log, do you think Hunter Biden will be pardoned? Do you think the pardon is coming no matter what? Even though Joe Biden, Dementia Joe, when I say dozens, I think I'm actually understating it. Okay, I don't think it's just 30, 40 times. It's more than 30, 40 times. He kept saying again and again, I will never pardon my son. I will not commute his sentence. You have my word as a Biden. So, I mean, saying something once or twice, but to say it that many times. Many times he said it, listen to me now. Let me be clear. I can't be clearer. So he pardons Hunter. I mean, he's trash. I mean, history will never forgive him. Okay, now he may not care. I agree with Dave. But I'm just saying, will Hunter be pardoned? Okay, that's question numero uno, log number one. Log number two, do you think Biden would pull out? In other words, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to have Kamala get her hands dirty. Now, she wants the presidency at all costs. Now, remember, for Kamala, sure, she wants to win in November, no question. But what else does she want? She wants to be president, even if it's for 4 months. Because she'll go down in history. First female president. In some ways, that'll guarantee her, in the history books, immortality, in her mind. So she's willing to sell her soul. So you can go to her and say, look, Kamala, you want to be the first female, and not just that, the first female minority president? Yeah. I'm going to step down a month before the election, October 1st, ultimate October surprise. Huge boost. You're going to be known as the first female president. You know what that's going to do to your campaign? It's going to electrify your campaign. The libs are going to go nuts. The media is going to go nuts. You're going to have the full power of incumbency going in. But you got to do me one thing, and I want it in writing. My son is pardoned. When you're inaugurated officially January 20th or whatever, should you win the election, you have to pardon my son before you get inaugurated. If you lose the election on the last day in office, you have to pardon my son. Either way, a pardon's got to come. So let me ask you, do you think Biden will drop out of the race and allow Kamala to become officially the president of the United States and to do it weeks or a month before the election? It would be the ultimate election interference. Will it happen? Do you think it'll happen? 617-266-6868. Lou in Peabody. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome. Lou?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Lou. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, let me just put it off the top here.
Yes, go ahead.
First, I had to give a shout out to an active duty member. I promised her I would, to Liana. Oh, I know she's listening. And I wanted to call because, correct me if I'm wrong, we discussed before I called in and that unnamed place, the nucleus of communism in Cambridge that we talk about, that we go to high school. But we had a great professor, and I talked to you about him. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. Wasn't the Alford plea used mostly like in the Civil War?
Yes.
For people going north and south of the Mason-Dixon line? Like
yes.
A northerner going to the south saying,
yes.
Hey, Becky can't get a fair trial?
Yes.
Right. So this isn't even used anymore. I remember he was teaching us in the 90s.
It's very rare. And Lou, I don't want to get too long. You're completely right, by the way. Obviously, you're a very knowledgeable man, Lou. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but when Abby Lowell came into court yesterday to show you what an act of desperation this was and said, we're changing our plea deal. We're changing our plea. We're going to enter a guilty plea deal, but an Alford guilty plea. Most legal analysts on television, and I'm not, they're not stupid people when it comes to the law. They were like, what the hell is that? That's right. Yeah. So, an Alford is quite rare, but let me tell you what's super rare and almost unheard of. Well, I don't know, Sandy. I mean, it's pretty unusual. Sandy says, okay, whatever. It's unusual. Okay. It's not done often. Okay. Let's put it that way. Sandy says it's not rare. Okay. So it's not done often. Okay. Let's just put it that way. So many analysts were like, what? Anyway, but the bigger issue is this. What is really rare, and this is indisputable, is to offer an Alford plea without telling the prosecution. Remember, when you do a plea deal, it's always arranged with the prosecution ahead of time. So, like whatever, not that it would ever happen to you, John, but say, whatever, you're involved and you didn't pay your taxes 1 year. Just indulge me. And now the IRS is barreling down on you, and we got you on tax evasion and tax fraud, and you're like, oh, geez, yeah. And, let's say it really was an honest mistake, or you were like, I was an alcoholic, or I was in the depths of a drug addiction. And so I'm telling you, man, I was stoned. I just didn't pay my taxes. You don't want to go to court because you're going to lose. So you would to spare the court the expense, the time, everything, you would make a deal with the prosecution. You would go to the prosecution and say, look, really, here's what happened. I'll offer a guilty plea. Can you give me minimal time or a minimal penalty, and let's resolve this? What they did was almost unheard of. They went to court yesterday. Remember, they're not guilty. They keep saying they're not guilty. So the judge is there. They got jury selection. The media cameras are there. They're going to have a trial. It's ready to go. And they offer an Alford plea without telling the prosecution. So you want to have a guilty plea deal without the prosecution involved? That's why the prosecution was stunned. The judge was stunned. The judge was like, I've never heard of this before. They tried to weasel out of it yesterday. And the prosecution, to their credit, held the line. and said, we're not giving them an Alford plea. What are you, nuts? And the judge went into recess, looked it over, and said, no, it's going to be a regular guilty plea deal. In other words, he's got to plead guilty all the way. Yes or no? And of course, they broke. They waved the white flag and they said, okay, guilty on all 9 counts, guilty on 3 felonies. So, Lou, it's obvious he did it kicking and screaming. And I believe the only reason why Hunter Biden did it, I can't read the evidence any other way, is because his old man told him to do it. He basically said, son, listen, you're going to bite the bullet on this, but don't worry. I got your back. Now, Lou, very quick, because I want to go back to you. Think how humiliating this must be for Hunter Biden. I'm not defending the guy. You know I can't stand him. But just think about it from his point of view. You've been your father's bagman for how many decades now? Collecting checks for the family. Almost like the family poodle, the family errand boy. And you do all the deals with the oligarchs on behalf of your father. His father's fingerprints are never there. It's always your fingerprints, your name. You're the one that's always being exposed. You're always the one that's out there. And you deny your innocence again and again and again and again. And now they force you to plead guilty? There's no getting around it. Everybody who's been backing Hunter Biden feels betrayed. Everybody in the media, everybody in the Democratic Party who's been backing Hunter Biden feels profoundly betrayed. No matter what happens, this is now a permanent stain, a permanent black eye on Hunter Biden. And you can tell. I mean, that's why he tried to weasel out of it with this stupid Alford plea deal. Okay, which he wouldn't even tell the prosecution about. But the fact is, Lou, he humiliated his son again. His son took the rap and took the fall again. What say you, Lou?
Oh, I feel the same way. But, I think it was sort of brilliant, in an act of desperation, because if he succeeded in that Alford plea, that would keep everything out of the media. And then he could go and say, listen, I never conceded to commit any crimes. And they could have went back on that. But thank God the prosecution toed the line. But going forward, Joe Biden's going to do the Vinny the Chin Gigante routine and pass away. And then, Hunter will probably be pardoned.
Yeah, that's how I'm almost like 100% guarantee. I mean, nothing is 100% in life, but as close to 100% as you can get, he's getting pardoned. And that's the only reason why he pled guilty. Because there's no way. Now, the other thing, though, is I got to say, Lou, by everything I've been reading in the media, and again, I'm a prisoner of these media reports, but these are some very good journalists who know their stuff about the courtroom and the law. They said he was going down. I mean, the prosecution had Hunter Biden 6 ways to Sunday. That this was an ironclad case against him. I mean, they had video, they had emails, they had receipts, they were going to humiliate him. I mean, really humiliate him. All of the trips, the prostitutes, the hookers, the cocaine, the oligarchs, the jet setting, the deals. I mean, they were going to expose all of that. And that's why he had to go for a guilty plea, because that would have implicated Joe Biden, Frankie Biden, Jimmy Biden. I mean, everybody would have been implicated. So, in a sense, they were going to really, really unmask him. And by unmasking him, unmask the entire family. Lou, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number, which again, I don't want to go in a circular argument, but it begs the question, right? His lawyer is not stupid. Abby Lowell is not a stupid man. So months ago, if you know all this, look, we're going to get destroyed in court. I mean, they've got smoking gun document after smoking gun document. They've got video after video after video. I mean, they've got it all, man. So what does your lawyer tell you? You gotta cop a plea. right? I mean, just imagine if you're in the situation. You're a hunter. I mean, they got you bragging about not paying taxes. They got you bragging about paying $10,000 a night for Russian hookers. All of this is undeclared income. I mean, Hunter, they got you, okay? They got you. So to spare them the cost of a trial, the expense of a trial, the energy and time of a trial, and all of this, you plead guilty months ago. That's what you do. He didn't do that. Didn't do that. Not guilty, not guilty. We're going to fight in court. We're going to win in court. We're going to take it to appeal if we lose. If we lose, we're taking it to appeal. Oh, this is a witch hunt. And he swallows this. Let me tell you, you may disagree with me. When I heard, I was stunned. When I heard, what? He pled guilty? Are you serious? Right away, my first thought, they're going to lose the election. Joe Biden and his people have made the calculation Trump is going to win. Trump is going to win because if Kamala was going to win, he wouldn't have pled guilty. Guaranteed he wouldn't have pled guilty. Trump is coming back to the White House. And Joe Biden called up his son and said, you're going to plead guilty and I'm going to pardon you. And that's how we're going to get out of it, Junior. 7:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Will Hunter Biden, will crackhead Hunter ever see a day behind bars? He now has pled guilty to 9 charges, 3 of them felonies, basically tax evasion, tax fraud regarding millions and millions of dollars. By the way, a guilty plea entered into now as a convicted felon. Because remember, he was found guilty in Delaware on gun charges. So it almost looks like a certainty that the judge will now insist on some jail time. But will there be a pardon waiting for him? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, John.
Now, Jeff, let's think about this for a minute. You're talking millions and millions of dollars in taxes that he didn't pay. So there was many millions of dollars more that Biden got. And what did he get it for, Jeff? He got it for treason. Okay? Biden is going to have to pardon himself for all crimes past and present. He's going to have to do his whole family, because if President Trump takes the oath of office, he will send the DOJ after them. Just think about it, Jeff. Would you trust that pot-smoking drunk to do the job? I know I wouldn't, Jeff. There's too many people to pardon here. And the crimes that were committed, tax evasion is one thing, Jeff. But treason, that's something else. The Chi Kongs did not pay Biden millions upon millions of dollars for his good looks, because he don't have any good looks. So that's what you have to, everybody has to think about.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. John, absolutely brilliant. Look, John, you're not a criminal. I'm not a criminal. You're not a Benedict Arnold. I'm not a Benedict Arnold. So I understand this thinking is so foreign to you and to me and to obviously this audience. But just, if you can, stand back for a second. Imagine if you're the president of the United States. Okay, imagine. And you've been engaged, as you put it, in treason, in a massive international influence peddling scheme. You have been selling out the United States to our worst enemies and to other countries. Okay, Ukraine is not our worst enemy. China is, but Ukraine isn't, obviously. You've been selling us out, and you've been using your family, your brothers, your sister, your daughter-in-laws, your son in particular. Your son is the one you've leaned on the most. He's the one that collects the cash. He's the one that helps distribute it to all these shell companies and entities that you've created. He's about to spill the beans. If he goes to court, all this is going to get exposed. You're going to get dragged in. You're going to be implicated now. So you're going to pardon him. But you're right. The question you got to ask yourself is, well, if the next guy comes in and he's vowing to drain the swamp, and by the way, I basically ordered a raid on Mar-a-Lago with shoot-to-kill orders against him. I've been trying to put him behind bars for years. I'm bankrupting his business. I'm destroying him and his family. He's going to win. I would be saying to myself, I got to pardon myself. I got to pardon my brothers. I got to pardon everybody. I mean, John, am I wrong?
Well, you're 1,000% right, Jeff. And I'm going to say this too, Jeff. There's a lot more people involved in this. That's why I know that the President Trump and his people listen to you. He better have some real good bodyguards, because I still say, Jeff, if he does make it, it's going to be by the skin of his teeth, because this is big, Jeff. This is really big, and I just don't see how it could possibly happen. I mean, you're going to be taking Democrats, Republicans, the Department of Justice. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been on that dole, raping us for our money and stealing and getting money for treason from the Chi-Kongs. This is huge, Jeff. It's bigger than you can imagine.
Oh, it just makes Watergate look like a Sunday picnic. I completely agree with you. John, dynamite call. Thank you very, very much for that call. Look, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I just want to throw this small, tiny log on the fire. But it's very important, because John is saying, look, hey, the stakes now are really high. Okay, it's obvious now. We're talking about one of the greatest scandals in human history, not American history, in the history of the world. Okay, that's what we're now looking into. Well, remember I talked about this yesterday, that Biden came out, the DOJ, Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, Russian election interference. There it is. Putin's trying to help Trump win again, even though, I don't know if you heard this, yesterday Putin endorsed Kamala. Putin came out. He could barely hide his glee, his smile. He says, oh, I love her laugh. It's infectious. I love it. He can't wait to have Kamala in the White House. But something very important happened. And I've got that story, all of your calls. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Next. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so just very, very quick. So they announced this huge, as I talked about yesterday. So now they're setting the stage now for another Russia collusion hoax. Notice, why did they do this? It came out the day after Trump was asked, will you declassify the Jeffrey Epstein list? That list of all of Jeffrey Epstein's clients and all those who went to so-called Fantasy Island. And Trump said, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll tell you what, day one, I will declassify it and everybody will know who went to that island and who was being blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. Now, my point just being, this is a massive scandal. It doesn't just involve communist China. It involves pedophilia. It involves molesting children. It involves being blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. And Trump is saying, I'm going to expose the whole damn thing. Listen, I'm done. We're gonna destroy this swamp. We're gonna drain this swamp. We're gonna open the lid, and you, the American people, are gonna see just how compromised and corrupt our political class is, our ruling class, our politicians, and our establishment is. And that's why now they're going all out to get him. They have to get him. They have no choice now but to get him. Now, very quick, because I want to go to the phone lines. Sandy made an absolutely brilliant point to me while we were off air. And it makes a lot of sense. And let me throw this log, and I want to get your take on it. Here's her argument, and I think there's a lot to it. She said, Jeff, look, Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's lawyer, love him or hate him, is a very good lawyer. He is. He's a very good lawyer. He's a smart man. He's not an idiot. He's a very, very smart man. Why would he do this? Why would he wait to the last possible second and then supposedly have his client enter an Alford plea and then have it blow up in his client's face? And now it's an absolute mess. Unless it wasn't Abby Lowell's idea. And according to Sandy, here's her theory, and I think it's a very good one. Jeff, everybody knows that Hunter Biden thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. I mean, he's legendary for this. He thinks he knows everybody. He's better than everybody. He's smarter than everybody. He knows best. He's always been like that. He's a complete and utter narcissist. And he thinks he'll always get away with it again and again and again. And remember, Hunter Biden is a lawyer. Not a very good lawyer, but he is a lawyer. And if you go to law school, you know about Alford pleas. Okay, they teach you that in law school. The point being, Sandy's theory is, what if this wasn't Abby Lowell's idea? What if this was Hunter Biden's idea? The screw-up who always thinks he's a genius, but his dad has to always clean up his mess. And so he thinks, I'll get away with it. I'll outsmart the prosecution. I'll outsmart the judge. I'll outsmart everybody, even my own lawyer. And so he comes in and he says, Alford plea. And the prosecution, remember, they were sandbagged. They're like, what? And he thinks that the prosecution is just going to cave and they'll say, okay. And then it'll turn out, okay, I pled guilty, but I'm really not guilty. And it's a slap on the wrist. And you see, like Houdini, I've escaped. But instead, because he's Hunter Biden, because frankly, he's an idiot, because his brain has been fried on crack cocaine going back decades, and the drinking and the boozing and the partying and the whole thing, it all blows up in his face. And really what Abby Lowell is doing yesterday is trying to, Sandy put it, he's just trying to make lemonade out of lemons. He's just trying to spin now what is clearly a disaster. Because objectively, when you think about it, this is the worst possible strategy from Hunter Biden's point of view. It's stupid. I'm telling you, it's blatantly stupid. Why? You change your plea. So now you're admitting guilt. So you've now wiped away not guilty. But you're trying to bamboozle both the judge and the federal prosecution. The prosecutors now really want to destroy you. And what do you think is going to happen when he goes in front of sentencing? Ask anybody who knows anything about the court system. The one thing any judge can't stand is a defendant who refuses to take responsibility or accountability for what they've done. So the judge is now going to look at him in December and say, let me get this straight. You wasted all of our time, all of that money, my time, the court's time, everybody, saying you were not guilty. And then on the very day that we're about to select the jury, selecting jurors to serve on the jury, and all this money has been spent, you then try to sell me that you're guilty, but you're not really guilty. An Alford plea. But now you're telling me, no, I'm really guilty. you know what, buddy? I'm going to throw the book at you, man. You got it coming, you little punk. That's exactly, I'm telling you, forget the pardon issue for a second. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, what I'm telling you, really, this is like Law 101. A basic lawyer would say that to their client. They go, look, what you're doing now is the worst thing you could possibly do. If you wanted to plead guilty, you should have done it months ago. If you're going to plead guilty, just plead guilty. But don't do the Alford plea and not even tell the prosecution or the judge ahead of time. Like, buddy, you're going to get wiped out. Like, are you begging to go to jail? Are you begging for them to throw the book at you? Because you're looking at 17 years. And remember, you just were found guilty in Delaware on gun charges. So now you're going to plead guilty as a convicted felon. Buddy, you're going to go to jail for a long time. I'm not talking 6 months. I'm talking years and years of serious hard time. So from a legal point of view, I'm telling you, this was the worst possible strategy imaginable. Now, I'm telling you, I'm not buddies with Abby Lowell. I'm not claiming that. But, you know, when I was in D.C. at the Washington Times, everybody knew Abby Lowell. He's a very prominent Democratic lawyer, very good, in fact, an excellent lawyer. No way this was Abby Lowell's idea. No way. This came from Hunter. I'm telling you, and now, as is so often happened, Biden now is going to have to clean up Hunter Biden's mess. Joe Biden's like, what did he do? Oh, my God. No. He did what? No. Oh, he didn't even tell the prosecution. Oh, my. Are you serious? Listen now to Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley, professor of law, George Washington University. Listen to what he says. Roll cut 6, Mike.
It's not uncommon to see plea deals occur before trials, but in this case, many of us have been writing for a month that Hunter Biden was perfectly insane not to plead guilty. Timing is important. You can get a better deal if you plead early rather than late. It's sort of like waiting for the water to reach the deck on the Titanic before you ask about swimming lessons. I mean, it's a little bit late for some of those options. And so he's really has succeeded in putting himself in the worst possible position in terms of a plea.
He's completely right. Now, to me, there's only two possible explanations. Again, you may disagree with me. One, this came from Hunter, the idiot, okay, the idiot, and it blew up in his face, like everything else. This is not the first time. Remember, he's the idiot that left a laptop behind at a Delaware shop, the computer shop. Like, only he does that. You know, as Trump says on the campaign trail all the time, who does that? Who leaves a laptop with all of the implicating evidence and emails on it? Okay, except this guy, Hunter. Or he knows his dad is going to pardon him. So he said, what the hell? Let's go for a Hail Mary. It's either door 1 or door 2. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Let's go to Tony in Weymouth. Sorry, Tony in Westboro. My bad. Tony in Westboro. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Hi, guys. I just, a couple questions, one fast one. Why do you guys, all of a sudden, everyone thinks that Joe Biden's telling the truth? He's not going to pardon or commute his son's sentence. After 3.5 years of them lying to us, and Karine Jean-Pierre lying to us, and Kamala lying to us, all of a sudden, he's telling the truth? Nobody believes that. I'm surprised, Jeff, that you even gave that any credence to that statement that he's not going to pardon him. Of course he is. He's his father. This is his son. And I do believe he's going to spend a tiny bit of time in jail until Joe's last day, and then he pardons him. I don't know if the timing works out so that he actually goes to jail before Biden's final day in office. But, maybe he'll try to save a little bit of face by letting him spend a couple weeks or a week or two in jail. No big deal. He's going to have a cushy jail. Everything's fine. And then last day he pardons him. What does he care? I mean, it's going to be the tiniest footnote, and everyone's going to say, oh, let's move on. It'll be over in 18 seconds. No one's going to care. He pardons him on his last day. Who wouldn't do that? Jeff, you would do that if you were the president. I would do that. You're going to pardon your son. Who cares? And then they move on. I think he had to plead guilty now just so that they can get this done.
Well, Tony, look, it's not that I believe Biden. I don't believe a thing he says. He's a pathological liar. No, the only point I was making, Tony, is that Biden has made such a stink about it. Nothing else. Nothing else has he made such a huge issue where he has said again and again, I'm not saying he's not going to do it. Of course he's going to do it. My point is, look, how do I say this? Whatever reputation he may have had, the moment he pardons his son, it goes out the window. Read my lips. I mean, I could just play you how many times. I will not pardon my son. I will not commute his sentence. This will never happen. I give you my word of honor as a Biden. Now, I know, this audience knows his word means nothing. But my point is, in terms of public perception, public prestige, I mean, when he does this, it is going to permanently soil his reputation and credibility. Now, you're right, in terms of the immediate impact on the last day, people aren't going to care anymore. I'm saying for his legacy in the history books, there's no question he will not be able to live this down. That's why I think, if I were him, and I don't know what it's like to be him because I can't think the way this guy thinks because he's a traitor and a criminal, but you'd rather have somebody else pardon him. If he could have Kamala pardon his son, I think it'd be much preferable than him doing it. Am I wrong on that, Tony?
Well, that would be ideal, but I don't, she would have to answer the questions. He's not going to have to answer any questions. He's gone. First of all, he's got 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet in the grave to begin with, so he doesn't care. It's over. And she'll have to answer to the press, and it'll make her first couple of days or whatever a little bit.
I agree. No, Tony, I think that's why I don't think she wants to do it. I agree with you. That's why he's going to do it. Many people are saying, oh no, Jeff, he's going to step aside just before the election and pass the baton off to Kamala. And I'm like, I'm not so sure. Because I don't think she wants to pardon him. I agree with you. I don't think she wants to pardon Hunter. And also, if I'm Joe Biden, and really, you're right, it's not Joe now, it's Jill. Look, I can play some more cuts of him. Tony, it's gotten so much worse. It's gotten so bad now. He can't function. And it's pathetic. Really, it's really pathetic. So, but anyway, it's Jill. And Jill is basically saying, no, look, you're going to pardon him and that's it. We can't trust Kamala. We can't trust anybody but ourselves. Because, Tony, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You want to get to Joe, you have to go through Hunter. A trial would have implicated Joe Biden without question. It would have implicated the entire Biden crime family without question. And Sandy made a really good point to me off air again. She said, Jeff, a plea deal does one other thing. Right? It not only sets up the pardon now, but it stops all evidence gathering. Once the plea is entered, like yesterday, you can't investigate anymore. You can't gather any more evidence. So it shuts down the evidence gathering process and any further investigation into the crime family. So, look, Tony, this is how I read the evidence. You may disagree with me. The Bidens are getting out of Dodge. And they're now, if they thought Kamala was going to win, he would not have pled guilty. He would not have pled guilty. They now believe Kamala is going to lose. And they're going to pardon him. You're right. On his last day in office, he's going to pardon him. And I think he's going to pardon a lot of other people, including himself. And they're all getting out. Because if they really thought Kamala was going to win, then why not go to trial? I mean, yes, it's embarrassing. A lot of stuff is going to come out, but Kamala's going to win. So what do you care? Now they're going to pardon and they're out. Final word to you, Tony.
Yeah, but every single president that pardoned somebody on their last day, they pardon all these questionable people. Clinton did it with all his buddies and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? The story is back page for such an incredibly small amount of time, and we move on. And that's the plan, and it's simple, and everyone would do it. Every person with a son or a child would do the same thing. Big deal. They move on. Pardon them and move on. And let's try to move the country forward, and enough with the Bidens.
Amen. Amen, Tony. Amen. Thank you very much for that call. Enough with the Bidens. On that we agree on. No, the one thing I would slightly, and thank you for that call, Tony. The one thing I would slightly disagree with you, and I'm not trying to seem holier than thou or, on some kind of, my self-righteous horse here or something like that. But on my, my righteous high horse, if my son was a traitor, the problem is it's the father that's the traitor. He just used his son, another traitor, to be the bag man. Okay, that's the problem. But I'm just saying, if my son was a genuine traitor, I honest to God, I wouldn't pardon him. I know you don't believe me, but I wouldn't. I'm saying no way. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. To me, there are some things in life you don't do. You just don't do. And one of them is betray your country. I think it's one of the worst things, believe it or not, and I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback on this. And how do I say this? Look, murder is abhorrent, okay? Please don't mistake what I'm saying. I think treason is even worse than murder. I'm telling you, I think it's one of the most gravest crimes and sins a human being can ever commit. And if my son, God forbid, was ever a traitor, an actual traitor to his country, it would be my eternal shame. Never mind his eternal shame. I wouldn't pardon him. I'm telling you, I wouldn't pardon him. Would you? Honestly, would you? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jerry in New Hampshire. We'll go to call log first. Okay, Jerry, hang on. We're going to go to the caller of the week. It's basically 8 o'clock. We're about 30 seconds away. So we're going to go to Kuhner's call log, caller of the week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Dan.
If you want to understand the left, I think what we're seeing is a collective psychosis. The hallmark signs being rage and fear. And one of the triggers of a psychotic episode is delusion. Jeff, I work as a registered nurse in one of the state's forensic psychiatric hospitals, so I have an understanding of mental illness. And the greatest delusion in our political history was that Joe Biden was of sound mind and body to be president. And what you're seeing on the left is that their altered mental status has eclipsed their sense of reality. And I got to tell you something, Jeff. Over the last 3.5 years, The most joyful people I encounter are people on the right. The most miserable people are on the left. And so we have to understand that we're not dealing with reasonable, rational people. We're really dealing with people that are psychotic. During the DNC, we call them person served, watching the DNC. These are people with serious psychiatric diagnoses. And they were saying that the Democrats at the DNC were crazy. So if the crazy people are saying the DNC is crazy, then they must really be crazy.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Congratulations. That was a phenomenal call. Actually, a very funny call, but what was funny was true. That was so funny about the call that even the crazy people think the DNC was crazy. And I want to thank again this incredible audience, best callers, best audience in the business. And Mike just let me know, in my ear that we made a little bit of history right now on the Kuhner Report. That is the 200th Kuhner's Call Log. 200. Huh? And hopefully many more to come. Many more to come. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Do you think Hunter Biden will be pardoned? Question number one. Question number two. What do you make now of Hunter's guilty plea yesterday? He has now pled guilty 9 charges, 3 of them felonies, tax fraud, tax evasion, millions of dollars in unpaid taxes. The left kept saying Hunter was innocent. The Democrats and the media kept saying he was innocent. There was nothing to see here. And then everything came crashing down yesterday. 617-266-6868. Jerry in the great state of New Hampshire, the Granite State. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. The live free or die state is Jeff. I've been watching the Biden ordeal for quite a while, and I'll tell you something. Is I predicted, and it had to happen, that he would plead guilty or get a conviction before his dad could pardon him. And them not trusting how the election's going to go, that, matter of fact, whether even Kamala would pardon him, I'm sure that was part of the deal when Biden decided to step down, but whether she would be honest and hold to that is another question. And so when he pled guilty, that was all set up. That was already in the bag that he was going to plead guilty because he can't get a pardon without it. He's got no conviction. What are you going to pardon him of? And you can't pardon anybody. That's like Biden can't pardon himself of crimes he hasn't even been charged with. And that's just not possible. But what did happen is now all the people that Hunter had dirt on, evidence on, that he might have cut a deal on his last sentencing are now covered unless they indict someone else. And because there's a whole lot of people in on the Biden crime family, if you will, and they're not all family, and even in Congress that have been involved in this. Ukraine, all the money in China, the money in I believe it was Romania. I mean, there's all kinds of things that have been going on, and they've been protected now because now Hunter is out of the spotlight on that, and they got him out of the hot seat, if you will, and. So now all they've got to do is get through the sentencing, and that had to happen before Biden, before whoever the next president happens to be, would take office in January. And the sentencing time is roughly about 3 months. They allow somewhere in that amount of time to sentence. But I'll tell you something else, and it came to me as I was listening to your show this morning, is on these tax charges. I don't know if Delaware has an income tax, but I would bet you $1 to a donut that in fact that he could have tax charges brought against him in Delaware too. Because if you cheated on his federal taxes, the odds are his state taxes weren't paid either because they reflect one another when you fill out your tax forms. So I'm just thinking that I don't know that there's anybody in that state that would charge him, but the odds are that he's in fact got some exposure there as well. And that judge could have put him in jail immediately after he pled guilty. but the judge didn't choose to do that.
I agree, Jerry, on every count. No, on every count, I think you're absolutely correct. I think you're dead on. And look, we know what the prosecution did. The prosecution kept doing Joe Biden favor after favor after favor, because they let the statute of limitations run out on some of the earlier charges against Hunter Biden, which would have directly implicated Joe Biden. I'm talking about his tax evasion of 2016, of 2015, of 2014, where Hunter was really raking in cash from Burisma. So that would have directly tied him to Joe Biden. So you're right. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is what I find incredible. They have not paid taxes on tens and tens of millions of dollars. They enriched themselves to the tune of God knows how much. Really, we don't know the full amount. But we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Easy, as they sold this country down the river. And now they're trying to do the ultimate cover-up. And you're right, the judge could have sentenced them on the spot. And this is what many legal analysts are pointing out. What is it that's so complicated about this case that they got to delay sentencing for 4 months? Sentencing is going to be in the middle of December. What's so complicated? Is the judge that busy? Is this such a sophisticated, complex, complicated case that it's going to take them months to figure out what's the proper sentencing? What's the proper sentencing for this? So it's obvious. Get the sentencing done by December, mid to late December, and then Joey can pardon. I mean, it's like on a silver platter. So anyway, look, it makes my blood boil that this guy's not going to see jail time because he's a traitor. Forget the fact that he's an embezzler and a fraud and a tax cheat. Okay, to me, the bigger thing is he's a traitor who sold this country out. And the bigger one was his father. And to me, the whole thing makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. And we'll see what happens. But man, would I love to see Trump unleash the DOJ on the Biden crime family. Oh, would I love to see that. Because you're right, Jerry. This is a can of worms. Once you open this, it's not just the Bidens. It implicates the Clintons, the Obamas, the Romneys, the McConnells, the entire swamp in Washington, D.C. They've all got their hands in the till. This is what they do. This is why things are so bad in our country. Because they keep selling us out to the highest bidder as long as they just keep enriching themselves. And now we find out it's through their children and their family. See, so they use front companies and entities, and the money doesn't go to them directly. It goes to their wives or husbands or children or nieces or nephews. And by the way, Jerry, please take this to the bank. Okay, as someone whose parents and grandparents come from Central Eastern Europe, and it's one of my sort of areas of interest. I like to follow that part of the world. That's exactly how they do it in Eastern Europe. To every Eastern European or of Eastern European descent listening to this, they're nodding their head up and down. Yep. The politicians, none of them, they're all poor. That's the joke in every country. They go, oh my God, they should be homeless. They have no assets. They have no income. They've got nothing. But they're all driving around in Mercedes-Benzes. They live in dachas, in mansions. They've got literally $15,000, $20,000 gold watches. They got private jets. They're jet setting all over the place. But hey, he's penniless. He's got nothing to his name. That's exactly now what our oligarchs are doing here. Final word to you, Jerry.
Well, thanks, Jeff. The concern is the example that this sets for the American people, that there is no, we can't have two systems of justice. You either have justice or you don't. There's not two tiers. There's not two levels. There's not two systems. There's one. It's either justice or not. And what this is giving a perfect example to the American people that if the political or whoever gets their gun sights on you and the government, they're going to nail you to the wall. But if in fact you're on the inside of that establishment, for lack of a better term, a member of that clique, that in fact you are never going to jail. You're protected, and that breeds resentment within the people, and that is the stuff that will cause governments to fall. Is when the people have finally had enough of it, and then they just say, "Hey, you know what? Why am I abiding by all these rules when they're not blatantly not abiding by those rules?" And that undermines our republic, because we're not a democracy; we're a republic.
And sadly, what you just described is communism. What you just described, I'm telling you, it's Russia, it's Ukraine, it's all of these Eastern European kleptocracies in former communist countries. The elites can do anything they want. The people, not so much. 820 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. I just want to read a really, really good text and then get all of your reaction to it. 70470 is the text line. 70470. This is from 781. Jeff, Labor Day is barely in the rearview mirror. Why does the sentencing need to be delayed until nearly Christmas? Is the sentencing so complex that the judge needs almost 4 months to figure it out? Of course not. So here's what's going to happen. If Trump wins, Joe will pardon his despicable spawn before sentencing. If Comrade Kamala wins, and the prison is something other than a country club with a barbed wire fence, Joe will pardon him before Hunter leaves the courthouse. And if it is a country club prison, then Comrade Kamala, she'll do it in January should she win. In other words, Hunter Biden is going to be pardoned 100%. This is from 617. Jeff, I agree with Abby Lowell, Hunter's lawyer. Hunter did do it for his family because a trial would have incriminated all of them and they would all be going to jail. Bingo. Bingo. Many of you feel this way. This is 917. Jeff, it is a 100% chance that Hunter will be pardoned. The only question now is by whom and when. In other words, will it be Joey? Will it be Dementia Joe? Or will it be Comrade Kamala? But there's no way that Hunter Biden is going to jail. I agree. Sadly, regretfully, I mean, you know me, I wish he would go to jail for years. I think Joe Biden would rather not pardon him, obviously, because this will completely tarnish his legacy. There's no question. Okay, there's no question. You can't go on the way this idiot has gone on for how many years now? I'll not pardon my son. I'll not pardon my son. I'll not pardon my son. I mean, he'll be completely tattooed and known as an absolute incorrigible liar. And I think whatever little credibility he has left is going to go up in smoke. And I think his legacy will be permanently stained. There's no question. But he's going to have to do it. So he will do it. He'd rather not do it, but he will do it. Or Kamala will do it. But there's no way they're going to let the justice system play itself out. Just my opinion. Agree, disagree. Let's go to Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Andy.
Okay. Well, hey, just for starters, I think by now we've all answered the question, where's Hunter?
Well, Andy, he's an innocent man. He's an innocent man, Andy, being persecuted by his father's own Department of Justice. That's now the spin they want us to believe.
Yeah, and there's also that bridge in Brooklyn they're trying to sell us too. But be that as it may, yes, 100% Hunter's going to be pardoned. And as far as like why Hunter's pleading guilty now and all of that, they're just getting all the ducks in a row for the whole slew of pardons that Joe Biden's gonna issue. I mean, it's not going to be just his son Hunter. It's going to be all the other criminals in Biden's whole inner circle. So I won't be surprised if we see similar movement with all the other criminals in his inner circle because, Joe Biden will just issue a slew of pardons for all of them. I mean, even if he resigns, I mean, that'll be his final act before he's out the door.
Andy, I'm looking at least at 100 pardons. I think Joe Biden is going to break every previous record of issuing the most pardons on his way out the door, because I think you're completely correct. He's got a lot of people he needs to protect him and to protect his family. He's got to protect a lot of his co-criminal conspirators. Andy, do you think the American people at this point care? That to me, I guess, is the $64,000 question. Do they care that we essentially have political gangsters and a crime family that's been running our country for the last 4 years?
I actually think they do care, and that's why President Trump is doing as well as he's doing in the polls. And I think enough people in this country want to move away from that. It's just, I mean, just the hard reality we're looking at in the moment. The pardon power is the prerogative of the president, and this is the reality of how Biden is going to use it. And quite frankly, Jeff, I don't even think at this point that Biden and his people even care about his legacy or their reputation or anything else. I just think their main priority is that get out of jail free card is in order right before they get out the door.
Andy, I agree. I completely agree. Look, I think it's self-preservation now. It's survival for them. Because, and this is, to me, this is the big story out of all this. If they were supremely confident or even fairly confident that Kamala Harris was going to win, they would not be doing this. They just wouldn't. So what that shows to me is, you nailed it, they need that get out of jail free card because they know the sheriff is coming back to town. And Trump now is going to be taking no prisoners. It's going to be his second term. He's not going to make the same mistakes he did in the first term. And they know now, he knows where all the bodies are buried, where all the skeletons in the closet are. And, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And that's why now the Bidens realize, son, plead guilty, fall on your sword. I'm going to pardon you and a lot of other people, and let's get the hell out of Dodge. Because Wyatt Earp is coming, i.e. Donald J. Trump. Andy, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, is Hunter Biden going to spend a day in prison? And what do you make of that remarkable plea deal yesterday? All of your calls next. 8:34 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the House of Biden now begins to collapse. In a stunning decision yesterday, Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty. That's right, he completely did a 180. Complete reversal. He is now pleading guilty to 9 charges, 3 felonies, tax evasion, tax fraud. He did not pay taxes on millions of dollars in income, lied on his federal tax returns, lied on his state tax returns. Anyway, so he is staring at 17 years in jail plus millions of dollars in fines. Listen now to Jonathan Turley on Fox. What was remarkable is that they were going to use the same defense that failed in Delaware on the gun charges. Remember, Hunter Biden was found guilty on the gun charges, and he kept arguing, well, I was a drug addict. Well, I was stoned all the time. Well, I was drunk all the time. I was high all the time. So I had no idea what I was doing. I can't be held responsible for my actions. Listen now to Jonathan Turley completely destroy that argument. Roll cut 7, Mike.
They were repeating the same defenses that collapsed in Delaware. I mean, this defense that I was a drug user and therefore I did all of these things from gun charges to tax evasion for years really didn't, pass the smell test with jurors. And they were going to have a more difficult time in this case. Like, the best chance they had was the gun case in Delaware, which was a limited period of time. In this case, you have Hunter Biden globetrotting around the world, hitting up people for millions and influence peddling, citing his father, even threatening people that his father was sitting next to him. Those tapes, those communications did not look like some junkie on the street trying to score another hit. They looked like a very sophisticated businessman in what may be one of the largest influence peddling schemes in history.
Bingo. He nailed it. And that's why they couldn't go ahead with the trial, because that largest influence peddling scheme in history would have been completely and utterly exposed, revealed. And so to prevent, in particular, Joe Biden from being implicated, son, take the deal. Plead guilty. And don't worry about it. Daddy will take care of you on my last day in office. One more, and then I want to go right to the phone line, 617-266-6868. Listen now to Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law professor, one of the leading constitutional lawyers in the country, saying, okay, it's now going to go to sentencing. He's already got a conviction. And look, it sets it up for a pardon or a commutation. Listen now to Turley saying a pardon or commutation will come. Roll cut 7A, Mike.
He's now a convicted person. He's going to go into sentencing with a record. And so that never helps on sentencing. I think that it would be very strange for the Department of Justice, after all of this history, not to seek some jail time. And if they seek jail time, they'll get it, very likely from this judge. So that may ultimately prompt the president to pursue a pardon or commutation. We'll have to see.
It'll definitely prompt a pardon or commutation. And I'll tell you why. Because Hunter's going to look at his dad and say, you better pardon me, because I'm telling you, I'm going to spill the beans. If you think I'm going to be the fall guy, I'm going to be the guy that ends up serving time, when you lined your pockets and Jill lined her pockets and Frankie and Jimmy and everybody else, millions and millions and millions of dollars, while it was my name, my signature, my face on every single one of these deals, with 10% for the big guy and everybody else getting their cut? No. So I am telling you, as sure as the sun rises, that pardon is coming. The only question is, as one of the texters put it, by whom and when? Will it be Kamala or will it be Joey? And when? Right after the sentencing or the last day in office? But, and I'll tell you this, I don't even think Hunter's going to spend a day in jail. I'm not talking about he spends a week in some, Club Med prison. No. And then they pardon him. No. He's not going to spend a second in prison, because that's what the Bidens do. That's what Democrats do. They protect themselves and they have nothing but impunity. And what's amazing is that not one Democrat, one liberal has called into the show or emailed me to say this is outrageous, this is obscene, this is sickening. The very same liberals, and I'm talking about the Bills in Sudbury, the Bens in North Andover, the Chris's and Franks in Gloucester, all of these liberal losers who defended Hunter Biden and defended the Biden crime family for the last 3.5 years, now suddenly they're silent. Because their guy just pled guilty to crime after crime after crime. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call today.
My pleasure, Heather.
I just wanted to answer your question. You asked, I forget what his name was, the other caller, about whether you think people care that the Democrats are so corrupt. And I've been pondering that question to myself for a while now, and I think that the MAGA people like us definitely do, but I also think that the crazy moonbats, as you would say, don't. I don't know if I want to say they don't care. I don't think they want to see it. And I'll give you an example. And this isn't quite about it's a similar example, but it's not like about about being corrupt. However, on Facebook, someone posted something about Trump in the Arlington Cemetery, and he was like being disparaging against Trump about that. Which, no, I didn't see the news, but I automatically knew it didn't make sense because we know how Trump is with the service members. And I posted something. I posted like evidence that basically wasn't true. And he just responded like, nope. He didn't even want to see the evidence that it wasn't true. So I don't think these people really want to know. I just feel that they don't. They just want to keep on going, not liking Trump because it makes them feel better in a weird, sick way.
Well, it's Trump derangement syndrome. That's what you're just. Look, what you just described now is the mind of a fanatic. What you just described now, really, it's Bill in Sudbury, or Ben in North Andover, or Chris in Gloucester. These are zealots. These are fanatics. Heather, hang on. I'm up against a hard break. We'll come right back. Okay, horrible day for Biden's family, for the whole crime family, and of course for all Biden supporters. Hunter Biden yesterday, guilty. He pled guilty, 3 felonies, 9 charges, and now it looks like Biden is going to break his word, the word that he has given over and over and over again, that he would never commute his son's sentence or pardon him. 8:50 now on the great WRKO. We're going to go right back to Heather in Rockland because she's making an absolutely fantastic point about how liberals are willfully blind, deliberately blind when it comes to the crimes of Biden and the Democrats and any positive news or information about Trump. Before I go back to Heather, though, I just want to read this very quickly. This is from Jack, who sent this to me just recently on Messenger. Jeff, 2 things politicians' kids don't do. 1, go to war. 2, go to jail. Bingo. That's why I'm against this completely corrupt, evil, and venal political class. They send our kids to war, not theirs. And they send our kids to jail, but never theirs. Yet Democrats and liberals will defend the swamp and defend this corrupt establishment to the bitter end. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Heather in Rockland. Heather, you were making a phenomenal point that here you were trying to debate a liberal on social media, and you were pointing out all the facts about what really happened at the Arlington National Cemetery, and they won't even hear it. They don't even listen. They don't want to hear it. And Heather, this is what I've concluded, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. What I think now this election has clearly shown, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is that Democrats, moonbats, liberals, really they're communists, progressives, whatever you want to call them, really only care about two things. Number one, they are radicals on abortion. Just like Democrats used to be radicals on slavery, they are now radicals on abortion. They want abortion on demand all the way up to birth, and in some cases even after birth, all across the entire country. No limits, no restrictions whatsoever. Even though every other country in the world, except for Canada, which follows the United States, has restrictions. In fact, in Europe, all of these European countries have severe limits on abortion after 4 months. Not the moonbats here. They want infanticide. They want to kill that baby right up until that baby is born. Okay, that to me is clear now. Abortion, 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 and the most radical kind of abortion. And two, they hate Donald Trump. Anybody but Donald Trump. And it doesn't matter how good inflation was, how good the economy was, how good the border was, how good world peace was, how good crime was, how good literally the quality of life in this country was. It doesn't matter, because they have been thoroughly brainwashed and indoctrinated into hating this man beyond all rhyme or reason. Heather, agree, disagree?
I agree, although I never really thought about it, the abortion, because I just don't, it doesn't, I'm beyond having kids, so it doesn't really apply to me. But I think the abortion part maybe, but I also think there's other issues that some of these crazies really care about. Like, I think they care about stuff like that too. And stuff that I just don't really think about, because it just doesn't make sense to me. So, but I do think you're right about the abortion. But they don't know what the real reason why they're pushing the abortion. I don't think they even get it. I don't think they even get that it's for population control and for science. You know what I mean? I don't think that people really understand why the Democrats are pushing abortion so much.
Heather, you're dead on. Heather, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Bill. I'm good. How are you? Especially after yesterday. I'm very good, Bill.
I have a slightly different view of the Hunter Biden thing, and I'd like you to consider it for a moment. I think it's the classic rope-a-dope, and you're the dope. I think they want you talking about Hunter Biden, because if you're talking about Hunter Biden, two things: you're not talking about Kamala Harris, and you look foolish. So I think it's a classic rope-a-dope, and you have taken the ball and you are running with it.
Bill, you never fail to disappoint. I got to tell you, it says you're always bat 1,000. I told you, you're like the inverse of perfection. So how do I look foolish talking about Hunter Biden? Explain this one.
All right, here it is. Just like I told you a million times, if he runs the 2016 campaign again, he will lose. Talking about Hunter Biden is not talking about 2024. You've been talking about Hunter Biden for 9 years. You haven't closed the deal yet. So
number one, Bill. Oh my God! Listen, Bill. Seriously, man. Like, really? Do you hear yourself? Like, really? Do you hear yourself? Like, seriously, dude. Seriously, he pled guilty yesterday. Okay, as the Russians would say, idiot. He pled guilty. What do you mean we didn't close the deal? Of course we closed the deal. He pled guilty yesterday. He's a criminal. You've been defending a criminal. Okay. A self-admitted criminal. And it only would have gotten worse had they gone to trial, number one. Number two, yeah, by the way, you're right. He's a convicted felon because he got nailed in Delaware on the gun charges. So you, who have been defending him for the last 9 years, should be apologizing, okay? But you see, that's what I mean. You even sound crazy. I'm being honest with you. I'm not insulting you. I'm telling you. You sound like an absolute zealot, a fanatic. Like you're foaming at the mouth. You've been proven wrong. You've been proven wrong. He just pled guilty, man. That's number one. Number two, Trump is not talking about Hunter Biden. I'm talking about Hunter Biden. And the entire media is talking about Hunter Biden. It's the front page of every newspaper in the world. MSNBC is look. Why don't you look up your fanatical friends on MSNBC? They're talking about Hunter. CNN's talking about Hunter. Fox is talking about Hunter. Everybody, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Washington Post. I could go on and on. Like you're really making a fool of yourself again. And why? Because it ties right back to the election, genius. Because it goes to the heart of the corruption of the Biden-Harris regime. Biden said his son never did anything wrong. His son yesterday pled guilty to millions of dollars, millions, in tax evasion and tax fraud. Millions. And that revenue came from selling access to his father. It goes right to the old man. And right to the crimes of this regime. Now, everybody can see this except you. And I thought, honestly, I mean, this is a layup. This is a layup. You call the show and you go, Jeff, I hate to admit it, but I was wrong. I was wrong about Hunter and I was wrong about Biden. They are corrupt. And they got caught, and they admitted it yesterday. The president's son is a tax fraud, a tax cheat, an embezzler, and a criminal. And instead, you come up with something. Holy mackerel. I should apologize. Trump should apologize. This is 2016 all over again, the failed strategy when Trump won in 2016. If he replicates the 2016 strategy, he wins because he won in 2016. I don't want to do it. All my instincts say, don't do it, Jeff. Don't do it. Don't lower the collective IQ and intelligence of this audience. Don't do it, Jeff. You're going to lose more brain cells, Jeff. But I'm going to go back to you. I don't know why. You're like my pet project. I'm trying to raise you to a 0 IQ, Bill. I'm trying so hard. Bill, can you just admit that you were wrong? Go.
I think you have it wrong. I think you're playing right into their hands. You can say that's defending him if you want, but I'm not defending him in any way, Jeff. You always peg me with like this worst possible point of view. What I'm saying is, if you're talking about Hunter Biden, you're not talking about 2024. That's all I'm saying. How long have you been talking about Hunter Biden? It's been like 9 years.
Oh my God, Bill, I don't know what to say anymore. No, really, honestly. Okay, Bill. I don't know what to Bill, in all seriousness, I'm asking you a very serious question. Like, do you take psychiatric medication?
But that's a standard. That's a standard.
No. I'm serious. No, really. No. I'm serious. No, really. Yes, I'm serious. Of course. This is the biggest story in the world. It's like I'm talking to. It's very scary to talk to somebody this detached from reality. Like, really, like, it's the front page of the New York Times, right? And the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Like, every media outlet in the world is the front page. Every media outlet. Every media outlet admits this is a huge blow to the Biden family and to the Biden regime. Everybody admits this. And Trump is not even talking about it. I'm talking about it because the rest of the world is talking about it. And you just act like it's like talking to a wall. And then you just repeat yourself like a tape. You just say the same thing. Like, as if you can't comprehend what's being said. So, look, Bill, you have the mind of a zealot. You have the mind of a fanatic. It's impregnable to any evidence, any facts, or any common sense. And honestly, Bill, I feel sorry for you, man. I really do. But anyway, Bill, as always, thank you for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. You want to know a typical Kamala Harris, Joe Biden supporter? This is it. Like, really. And they're no different than the Bolsheviks and no different than the Nazis. They were the same. It's just like you can't reason with them. It's like a tape. Same tape, over. It's like the same thing, over and over and over and over. They just keep repeating it. And you're like, no, but I've addressed that already. But no, I've refuted that already. They just keep repeating it. Keep repeating it. Keep repeating it. Over and over and over and over again. Suddenly what? Trump's making a big mistake by talking about Hunter Biden. He's not talking about Hunter Biden. Trump's making a big mistake by talking about Hunter Biden. But he's not talking about it. I'm talking about it. The world is talking about it. The media is talking about it because it's such a massive story. Again, same thing. It doesn't matter. Trump has said nothing, to my understanding, nothing. Why? Because yesterday he delivered one of the most incredible addresses I have ever seen a president deliver at the New York Economic Club. And just very quickly, okay? Please, you got to hear this. Couple minutes, I promise I'll go right back to the phones. I know this is red hot. The economic agenda that Trump laid out, I'm like, please win. That's all. Please win. Please, I'm begging you. Please, God, please let him win. First of all, it was he did a compare and contrast with Kamala. And he pegged her as a communist. And he went blow by blow. It was a brilliant speech on everything Kamala has stood for and everything she stands for now. Okay, and most of you know this, on price controls for food, on taxing unrealized capital gains, but you need to hear this part. What Trump brilliantly showed yesterday, and I hope he mentions this at the debate on Tuesday, Kamala Harris will let the Trump tax cuts expire. She's vowed. She said, no, they're expiring. I win, we're not going to renew them. What that means is that taxes on you, me, all middle working class Americans are going to go way up. So when she says we're not going to, raise taxes on the middle working class, that is a lie. It's a blatant, bald-faced lie. Because she's going to let the Trump tax cuts expire. She has said it repeatedly. It's one of the few specific positions she's taken. But she's also going to raise taxes on small businesses. And do you know what the tax rate on small business is going to be under her? 44%. 44%. It is going to be 20 points higher than Communist China. Communist China has an effective business tax rate of about 24%. She's going to have, and she wants to impose, and she will impose, a 44% business tax rate. As Trump rightly said, she is going to wipe out small businesses. She is going to make this country completely uncompetitive. China is going to eat our lunch. Foreign investment is going to pour into China. They're not going to come here. When you got such a much lower, I'm not talking 1 or 2 percentage points, a massively lower tax rate in China. So, middle class taxes through the roof, we're going to get hosed. Working class taxes, hosed. If you're a small business owner, she's going to murder you. Economically, she's going to kill you. This is going to devastate the economy. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. Her corporate taxes alone are going to soak us. because much of that is going to be transferred to us. So she is going to be the biggest economy jobs killer in the history of the United States. Her plan is insane. And then he said, here's what I'm going to do. Now, I want you to listen to this. Okay? He laid out an agenda now that if he does just half, hell, 1/3 of what he says he's going to do, happy days are here again. He is going to slash taxes across the board. You're getting a tax cut. You're going to be paying lower taxes. I'm going to be paying lower taxes. Small businesses, lower taxes. He is going to make us the most economically competitive country in the world. But not only is he going to be lowering taxes, that's just the beginning. He is going to be slashing regulations, especially on small businesses. Business is going to boom. Domestic energy production. He is going to now unleash not just oil and natural gas drilling. Pipelines are going to start getting built. It is going to be drill, baby, drill. He is going to drive the cost of energy way down. You're going to be paying $2 a gallon, if not less, at the pump. And everything else across the entire economy, your energy bills, way down. Your groceries, way down. Everything, way down. Because he's going to drive energy to the lowest it's been in decades, even lower than his first term. Now, on top of all of this, he is going to continue to impose fair trade, not free trade, fair trade. And as he said in specific, and you got to hear this, all of you, please, because this really affects this country. He's going to continue to impose tariffs on goods and imports from China. Not from other countries, but from China. Now, why is he doing this? Okay. In Germany, Volkswagen, which is by far their most, it's like a national, what Ford used to be to this country is what Volkswagen is to Germany. It is the car company that it symbolizes, embodies German pride, German manufacturing, German industry, German success. For the first time in Volkswagen's nearly 90-year history, they are now going to be closing car plants in Deutschland, in Germany. Never been done before. Tens of thousands of German workers now are going to be laid off. You know why? Because the Chinese are dumping their cars into the German market. They use slave labor. They use sweatshop labor. They manipulate the currency. And so they're dumping their cheap cars, undercutting Volkswagen, killing the Germans in their own home market. Trump said yesterday, I am going to save the auto industry in the United States. I'm not going to allow Ford and GM and everybody else to go the way of Volkswagen. We are going to bring American manufacturing back to the United States. We're going to bring the auto industry back in the United States through smart tariffs. And to show you how effective Trump's economic agenda is, look it up. Don't take my word for it. When Trump came out and said, we are going to drill like we've never drilled before, more pipelines than we ever had, I'm going to have gas at $20 a barrel. Putin came out and said, we want Kamala Harris to win. So much for your Russia collusion. Now, why would Putin come out and endorse Kamala publicly and with a smile on his face? One, because she's weak and he knows he can roll her. But two, you take away the price of oil, it's over. That's Putin's economic lifeline. Nothing will weaken Russia more than cheap oil and cheap gas. What Trump laid out yesterday was not just a vision for prosperity. He will make America affordable
again.
919 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back. The lines are jammed. 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to go right back. Basically now, Trump has unveiled a new slogan. It's not just Make America Great Again. Yesterday at the Economic Club in New York, he said, we're going to make America affordable again. He is going to lower the cost of living for all Americans. He is going to raise the standard of living for all Americans, but in particular for middle, working class, and small business owners. Relief is coming. Tax cuts, deregulation, energy, the massive domestic energy production, and fair trade. And on all of those four pillars, you are now going to see one of the greatest economies in the world is going to be built right in front of our eyes. And I'm going to make a very bold prediction. When Trump wins in November, and if he can have any kind of a Republican-led Congress, I don't care if it's 1 or 2 votes, and he gets just half of what he wants to do, this country will be booming in 6 months, and in 1 year, he is going to erase all of the economic devastation inflicted by Biden and Harris. In other words, what he laid out yesterday was frankly one of the most brilliant, bold economic agendas. And let me just make one more, because this is the one that's making the rounds. He's also done something outside the box. Only a businessman teaming up with another businessman could come up with something this dynamic, innovative, and original. He is now promised he is going to set up a government efficiency commission, and that Elon Musk has agreed. He said this yesterday. It's a formal agreement now. Elon Musk will head up this government efficiency commission. And what is this efficiency commission going to do? Maybe saying, Jeff, what the hell is a government efficiency commission? I have been waiting my whole life, 55 years for this. Led by Elon Musk, one of the most talented, if not most talented entrepreneurs in the world, with other business leaders. They are now going to do a complete audit of the entire federal government and the entire federal budget. And they are going to identify all of the bloat, all of the waste, all of the fraud, all of the inefficiencies. And they are going to put together a plan, a strategy, a blueprint on how to save taxpayers like you, me, all of us, hundreds of billions of dollars that are now going to special interests or going right down a rat hole or are literally being wasted in this huge bloated federal leviathan, this huge bloated bureaucracy. He's going to streamline spending. He's going to streamline the federal government. He's going to make it lean and mean. And this is how it's going to impact us, not just in saving us money, but by cutting back spending, it will drive down inflation. So it's going to be an all-out energy production, tax cuts, booming economy, slashing government spending through inefficiencies, waste, and fraud. It's going to be an all-out attack on inflation. We will be the wealthiest nation on earth if Trump can implement his economic agenda. My whole life, people have been asking me, Jeff, where is the heir to Ronald Reagan? Yesterday, we found the heir to Ronald Reagan, Donald J. Trump. Vote your pocketbook. Vote your self-interest. Vote for a much lower cost of living. Vote in the economic interests of you and your family. That's it. That's all I'm asking. You do that, and we'll be the most blessed country on earth. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Bob.
I agree with everything you just said. I watched that speech yesterday. It was wonderful. And if anybody in this country saw that and doesn't vote for this man, they're nuts. They're out of their mind. I mean, they have kids, they have grandchildren. What's wrong with these people?
Bob, I'm going to let you finish, but if you don't mind, you know, he was so impressive yesterday. No, really, at a different level. And I just look at that and I just say that the only criticism I have, and look, I'm voting for him. I think he was a great president. I think he's going to be even a better president in his second term. I think he's a magnificent leader and a magnificent man. So please, I don't want to be misunderstood. But I look at that speech yesterday and I'm like, if he could only do that every time. There was no name. I mean, there's a little bit. He called her, communist Kamala, and that's funny, and comrade Kamala, and, I get it. But for the most part, it was insult-free, it wasn't nasty. He wasn't calling people names. He was very presidential, very serious, very thoughtful. I look at that and I'm like, oh, if he could just do it every time, he would be invincible. Bob, agree, disagree?
Absolutely, positively. I was very impressed with that. The best one he's ever given as far as I'm concerned. And I've seen them all, But the real reason I called, I want to go back 6 weeks ago. And when they forced Joe Biden to resign, or not to run again, rather, and Nancy Pelosi and Obama and Kamala and the whole crowd sat in a room with him, and they made some kind of an offer about hunters being, found. What's
Bob, can you hang on? Boy, this break came out of nowhere. Okay, Bob, hang on. We're going to come back. Bob says there's a big question that needs to be asked and answered. We'll go back to Bob, take more of your calls. Don't touch that dial. 9:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, I promise I'm going to get to all of your calls, starting with Bob in Plymouth. But first, joining us now, as she always does at this time, co-founder, president, CEO of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Since financial needs change, evaluating your life insurance shouldn't be a one-time event. September is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and there's no better time to schedule a review of your policies to ensure they're performing as expected and aligning with your current financial goals. A policy review goes much deeper than just analyzing current benefits and coverage. It's a holistic look at health, life changes, current economic conditions, and any new products that may be available. Kelly Financial has a free investor guide called Evaluating Your Blueprint for Life, the importance of a policy review that explains the life events that may trigger the need for adjustment. For the guide or to set up a complimentary consultation, give us a call or email Kelly at kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for our radio rewind. Jeff, have a great weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. Call now for a free retirement consultation. 888-800-1881. 888-800-1881. Or you can email Kelly herself at kelly@kellyfinancial.org. All right, let's go right back to Bob in Plymouth. Bob, you were building up to a very important question. when they plotted to overthrow Biden, and you're saying, he's sitting back, he's talking with Kamala, they're in a room, they're making all their arrangements now to have Kamala become now the nominee. The issue of Hunter Biden must have come up. Please, Bob, pick up where you left off.
Well, my gut feeling is that they told him, you can't win, Joe. You're not going to beat Trump. And if you lose, and your son is not going to be paroled, not going to be forgiven, right? So you got to make some kind of a move where you don't run. We put Kamala in your place. And now, whether she agrees to this or not, that she is going to pardon him if Joe can't, or whatever the reason, So they put the pressure on him to drop out of the race, I'm sure, because of this Hunter problem with pleading guilty yesterday.
Well, I think, and to add to what you're saying, Bob, the problem that Biden had, see, it's one thing to have a degenerate son, okay? Let's just say, just for the sake of argument, he's a, crackhead, and he's buying these guns, and he's dumping them in garbage cans, and he's not paying his taxes, and he's partying, and he's, spending all this money on strip clubs and strippers and cocaine, and he's not, and they got him on tax fraud, they got him dead to rights and tax evasion. That's one thing. Okay, bad as it is, that's one thing. The problem, and this is why it comes right back to the very core of this regime. They were engaged in global influence peddling. All Hunter Biden was, I'm not trying to diminish his role, but really, he's just a front man. That's all he was. He's just, he's the guy you send out, he signs papers, he shakes hands. The real godfather is Joe Biden. And beyond him, it's Barack Obama. And it's Hillary Clinton. So what happens is, if it's like a domino, if, it's like the mob, when you prosecute the mob, if you get, one guy who can roll on others, if he falls, they all fall. That's why they've got to protect Hunter Biden. That's been Hunter's ace in the hole the whole time. And he knows it. And if you notice, okay, leave aside the Democrats for a second. This to me screamed political opportunity for the Republicans. They could have destroyed Hunter Biden. They could have exposed Hunter Biden. They could have brought down Joe Biden. It's like a house of cards. It would have all come crashing down. But they didn't do that. For the last 3.5 years, everybody keeps asking, why are the Republicans not going after Biden, especially Hunter and the Biden crime family? Why do they keep treating them with kid gloves? It's all show, investigation, committee hearing after committee hearing, but they're not pulling the trigger when it's the most easiest thing to do. And it's because it's not just the Democrats. The corrupt oligarchs who run the Democratic Party are the same corrupt oligarchs who control most of the Republican Party, the entire Republican establishment. So Biden always knew, both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, that ultimately he would have cover from Republicans because they're just as complicit. That's why, I don't know if you saw this story, Jonathan Martin in Politico wrote a big story a couple days ago. I urge everybody to read it. There are key establishment Republicans, they won't put their name out, but we know who they are, who are saying we want Trump to lose. We'd rather have a Kamala Harris presidency than to have Donald Trump as the president. Now, they're trying to give reasons. NATO, the war in Ukraine, they keep going on about tariffs. He's not a free trader, tariffs. What they're really saying is, he's not a globalist. He's not a puppet. He's not part of the swamp. He's going to expose all of us. The gravy train is over. That's what they're petrified about. That's why Liz Cheney, I don't know if you saw this, Liz Cheney at Duke University 2 days ago came out and officially endorsed Kamala Harris. Who, 3 years ago, she went on some social media platform and posted that Kamala is so radical that she could never support someone as radically left-wing as Kamala. Well, now Donald Trump's going to expose the Cheneys, the Bushes. And that's the dirty secret. We are run by oligarchs, corrupt billionaires who buy politicians. And Donald Trump, this is really the election. Forget everything else. Are we a republic or are we not a republic? Are we a constitutional republic with representative government in which our elected leaders are supposed to represent the people, us? Or are we now an oligarchy? Like in most countries around the world, or like the old Roman Empire, or like the old British monarchy that we fought a revolution against. In other words, do the few powerful, wealthy elites, do they really run this country? Do they control us? Or do we govern ourselves? That's the election in a nutshell. So this is what Hunter Biden has known the whole time. My old man will never abandon me. The Democrats will never abandon my old man. And the Republicans will never really come after my old man. Because like a bunch of mob families, they rise together and they fall together. And so the one guy they hate is the sheriff who's going to clean all this up. And really, we're the sheriff. We're the ones who want our country back because we're the ones that are being raped. We're being exploited. We're the ones being oppressed. They're taking advantage of us. They're stealing from us. Trump, as he says this over and over again, yes, they're after me, but they're really not. They're after you. I'm just in the way. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bob, as always, thank you for that thoughtful call. All of your calls next. 947 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868. Sal in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. The frustrating thing about this, to someone that's been paying attention, all of this should have came out during an impeachment trial or hearing. Everything that he pled guilty to yesterday should have came out in impeachment. Now, you had Jim Jordan on months ago saying, well, we don't have the votes in the Senate. That doesn't matter. It should have came out. The mainstream media would have been forced to cover it. And look, they impeached Trump over a perfectly legit phone call to Zelensky, and it turns out it's all part of it. It was all part of what he pled guilty to yesterday. It's so frustrating. And now all the mainstream media is covering it. Well, the Republicans, you're right. Before the break, you had mentioned the Republicans are dirty. All the prominent Republicans are dirty. They should have come out in an impeachment a year ago. Do you know what I'm saying, Jeff?
Sal, honestly, you're a genius. Really, I'm serious. Absolutely, you're brilliant. This is what I argued at the time. I'm sure it's what you argued at the time. I've been banging my head against the wall for 2 years now. If they were a serious opposition party who really wanted to open up transparency, accountability, and expose the crimes of the Biden family, they would have gone down the road of impeachment. Forget whether he's convicted or not in the Senate. The American people should have known the whole story. And you're dead on, Sal. They didn't want to do it. And look, I'm not going to look. Jim Jordan has done some good work. Some of his investigations have been very good. He's unearthed a lot of really damaging information. But I'm sorry, I got to call it the way I see it. He's controlled opposition. When it came to pulling the proverbial trigger, he blinked. And I believe it's because he's bought and paid for, like most Republicans up on Capitol Hill. You know, look, you can just, you'll know them by their fruit. Sal, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the few that kept calling for impeachment. And look at how they characterize her. She's crazy. She's an unguided missile. She's a loose cannon. She's not right in the head. She's unstable. She's the only one that's not bought and paid for. I'm not saying there aren't others. There are a few others, but she's one of the few. And she was like, what are you all waiting for? Impeach. Well, we don't have the votes in the Senate. Who cares? Expose it all. Let the American people see it. Sal, do you think we'll ever get to the truth? The whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Point when I started off with, people that pay attention know the truth, but the frustrating thing is, like you had just said, Jordan, what he was saying, look, Comer had all the receipts. It should have came out. The low info voter, even though the barking that they did, it didn't get to most of the American people that aren't paying attention. But had they done an impeachment hearing, the mainstream media would have had to have covered it. And a lot of the people that genuinely don't pay attention, they might have paid attention and listened to it because the mainstream media would have had to have covered it. That's what's so frustrating. You know what I mean? That's the frustrating part about it. The FBI knew about the laptop prior to 2020. They had it. Jeff, you know that for months. Yes. They had the laptop. It was all there. But yet this demented old fool was installed in the White House, and all his radical policies, the destruction that's been happening to this country, was all allowed to happen. And the Republicans could have been up in arms and making a stink on news, television news, and I'm angry and I sound like I'm all over the place, but it's no, but it's a duopoly. No, you're not. You're completely coherent, Sal. Actually, you're on fire. It's a duopoly. Again, outside of a few. I mean, I'm not, but for the most part, we have a duopoly. It's the Republicrats and the Democrats. That's what Trump has completely exposed. And what Trump really is, he's a third party within a second party, if that makes any sense. He's using the Republican Party because it's hard for a third party candidate to break through. But he's really using the Republican Party to advance his MAGA America First movement. But the Republican Party is just as corrupt as the Democrat Party. And that's what the Biden years showed us. You are not 100, you're 1,000% correct, Sal. They should have impeached him regardless of what happened in the Senate. And in an impeachment hearing with the impeachment managers, all of this and so much more would have come out. Instead, they essentially covered up for the Bidens. As you put it, all bark. Okay? All bark, no bite. Sal, thank you very much for that call. James in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, James, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, James.
Hi. Hunter had to plead guilty because that would have exposed all the money they steal from us and fund to Ukraine through the LLCs in New Hampshire. We have an important election coming up next week in New Hampshire, and Sununu backed Haley for the primary, and I called in and told everyone that was voting to bypass the machines because Scanlon said we could do it. And I feel that that's what put Trump over the top during the primary. Well, they're up to their old antics again. The ballots have been printed, the machines have been programmed, and this time Sununu's back in Ayotte because she's going to carry over and the same thing as him and monitor all those LLCs. The corruption will continue. Those of us that want Morse should bypass the machines and ask to be hand counted and go in the side pouch. Now, real quick, the Secretary of State said we could do that after the primary, but then when they realized the outcome didn't come to what they wanted, they passed secretly HB 154, which says now it's up to the moderator. But in that law, the moderator does not want to start a fight with the voter. So if you're firm that you want to go in the side pouch and be hand counted, you can still do that.
Well, James, just to further what you're saying, okay, and watch, okay, watch. Just if you can, write this down and say Kuhner made this prediction. I want you to hold me to it. Sununu, Chris Sununu, that crook, okay, that shyster, is going to make a fortune after this, when he's done leaving the governor's office. His family have financially been in bed with the sheiks, with wealthy Arabs in the Middle East, and with the Turks. He is a globalist through and through. That's why he was tied to Nikki Haley. That's why he's tied to Kelly Ayotte, who's another rhino globalist. And do they want this corruption to continue? You better believe it. Because the Sununus, they're not a big crime family. They're a small crime family. But they're a crime family nonetheless. So, James, they need this system to continue to be perpetrated and perpetuated so that they can continue to get rich. Sununu is an absolute fraud. There are very few Republicans that I have more contempt for than Chris Sununu. Him and Charlie Faker. Losers. I gotta go. Bye-bye.